Hello and welcome back to Michael's Japan Diaries. I wanted to go to a bit of a different place today, so that's why I'm here. This is just inside my car, you can probably figure that out. I wanted to get a chance to talk to you, and instead of just sitting in the same sofa as you saw me in the last two videos, instead of going to that same park that you've seen me in a couple of times, I just looked on the map and figured, where is a new place I haven't been that I could go to record a video, so I went here. I don't know what this place is. On the map it said Wild Bird Natural Forest Park or something like that. Not a natural park, it's just a forest that's natural and a park. Anyway, I wanted to get a little bit of a chance to talk to you because, as I mentioned, I recently went back to Denmark for a very brief vacation for the first time in 3 years, and doing so brought me a lot of reverse culture shocks. So it's like spending 3 years in a foreign country, coming back home, I was like, was it always like this kind of feeling? And that's what I wanted to take a chance to talk to you about. So I'm going to go out here, explore this area, and then talk to you about that along the way. See you there. You'll have to excuse the sunglasses, because even though there's no sun, weather like this with just white clouds is actually really difficult for me. And also you'll have to excuse the sound. They're doing some construction over there, and they're compressor thing running in the car right there. Anyway, I just wanted to show you, this is a map of the park. There's not a lot in the park. Well, head up there. So anyway, as I was saying, a couple of reverse culture shocks that I experienced going back to Denmark for the first time in 3 years. First off, how to say it, like people's behavior in public. One very obvious one, of course, with the whole corona situation is, in Denmark, nobody was wearing masks or anything. It was pretty much like corona never existed, which is really weird coming from Japan, where it's very much still a thing. And actually right now, for several weeks, it's been constantly increasing with higher number of cases every day. And for that reason, people are still wearing masks. I'm right now not wearing it, as you can see, because there's no people. There's no people here, so it's okay. But people in Japan are still wearing masks, and it's very much still a thing to do so. And that's just not a thing in Denmark, not at all. So that was a really interesting thing to experience. But more so than that, well, one of the first things I noticed when I came to Copenhagen Airport, which was the first place that I landed in Denmark, because that's where usually all of the international flights come, or the major ones, was at the baggage claim. You know, when there's like a baggage conveyor and people stand like this, right up against the baggage conveyor to get their bags. Yeah, that happens in Denmark. In Japan you would never see that. People would stand like this away from the conveyor, and also when the suitcases come out, they always have the handle facing out, so you can easily just pick it up and just go. In Denmark, the suitcases were just like all over the place, like, pom, and people were standing like right up there to the thing, and that was just an interesting experience to like see people's behavior in public. I'm not necessarily saying it's worse or better in one place or the other, but yeah, it was just different and interesting to see how people's focus on... I'm trying to figure out how to say this without sounding bad for one way or the other, but I think in Denmark, probably many Western countries in general, people are more thinking about themselves, where in Japan people are very much not thinking about themselves, or rather they're thinking about not being a bother to other people in society, and I think that's probably why that is, but it was just really interesting to see. And though you might expect it, since it's, you know, a bird something park, there is an observatory here, and as you know, we do like our observatories, so I will go up here and have a very nice view of those clouds. It looks like we're gonna get wet if we don't finish this soon. So number 2, probably a little bit in extension of the one I said previously with people's behavior in public, and also involving a bit of a cultural difference, is public toilets. In Denmark, I've never really thought about it before, but there are very few public toilets, even at like supermarkets or, well, convenience stores. There's not that many of them, but there's just very few public toilets. If you go to a restaurant or a cafe, of course, there's toilets there, but in Japan, every single store, every single supermarket, every convenience store, of which there are many, there's toilets everywhere, and the toilets in Japan, anywhere you go, like the worst you can get is a okay toilet. Like if it's like a really dirty place, you're still at okay. It felt like the public toilets in Denmark, the best you could get, like the cleanest they would get, would be okay, and then it just went downhill from there. In Japan, the public toilets are really clean, and they're just everywhere, and I never thought about that before. So that was a really interesting experience to see. On the subject of interesting experience, since we are up here, let's take a moment to enjoy the view. I think that's a power plant right there. Out there are a couple of islands. You might be able to see, I'm not sure where that will show up on the camera here, but somewhere out there's a bridge that leads from. So all of this here is like the main island of Okinawa, and then out there's like a little chain of a couple of islands, and a road leading out there. The road is called Kaichu Doro, which means road in the middle of the sea. Goes out there. That's a really nice area out there. Actually, a couple of videos ago, when I went to like this cliff where you could see the sea from, that's out there on one of those islands. Number 3 is money. While it has gotten a lot better in recent years, Japan is still very much like a cash-based society. In many places you can pay with card, but it's always kind of like the more difficult option. Instead of just paying by cash, you have to like stick your card in the thing and wait for the thing, and sometimes you even have to sign a little thing. It doesn't happen so often anymore, but it's still very much cash is the baseline. Coming back to Denmark, it's like cash. Cash, what's that? What are you talking about? Like, basically cash does not exist. I had to specifically go to an ATM to withdraw some cash to even have a chance to see Danish cash. Because otherwise, it was just like, card is a thing. You just like, boop, 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 touch a piece of plastic and you pay your stuff. That's how it works. So that was a very interesting thing to see, that having been used to cash being the baseline, it was just really weird to come to a place where cash basically doesn't exist. Now I did just follow the path here, and I was trying to go this way down here, but it seems like that's really just going out of the park, because we've got like road and stuff down there. So that's I'll just head back this way. 4th is, and this might sound like a really weird kind of thing, is how friendly people were. So I never really thought of the people in Denmark being friendly, but of course that doesn't mean that they're unfriendly. It's just like it was just I mean, normal. Of course, I've grown up in Denmark, so I never really thought of any kind of friendliness level. I just thought like it was normal. It's always interesting coming to Japan, where people are friendly. I mean, you hear that all the time. People in Japan are friendly, and that is true. Like, you go anywhere, and people are nice, and you get a really good service. You go to any store, any restaurant, people are just really friendly, really nice, and you just feel like, yeah, this is great. Like, the service here is great. And that is true. Absolutely. The service in Japan is good. But the thing that kind of surprised me coming back to Denmark is how genuine that friendliness was. Oh, there's a nice little place here. Yeah, it's how genuine people's friendliness in Denmark was. Like, when talking to people at restaurants, at stores, like, basically anywhere I went, people were so warm and smiling and happy and genuinely interested in conversation, even if it was just like a store or a restaurant. And there's just some like 3 or 4 steps of mystery stairs down here. Whereas in Japan, as I said, like, the service is fantastic, but being in Japan never really struck me how superficial a lot of that friendliness is. And again, it's difficult to figure out how to say this to make it not sound like a negative thing, because I don't mean it as a negative thing. It's just a lot of the friendliness and politeness you get in Japan is very superficial, in the sense that
if you go to a restaurant or a store, you are the customer, and customers are treated with respect, and that is the respect and friendliness you get. But it's not on a personal kind of level. But it felt like in Denmark, like the warm smiles, like the way that people would respond and talk is just like a genuine kind of friendliness, genuinely interested in the other person. So that was really the main thing I was surprised at coming back to them. Were people always this friendly? Also, there's one more thing. That's not so much a cultural thing, but I was surprised about how cold it was. I know I should expect it, but in my mind, in my memory, what I remembered is like Danish summers are not hot, but nice and warm, that you can walk around outside in short sleeves and that everything's fine. When I first got there, I spent 2 days in Copenhagen before going back to my hometown, and it was cold. Like those 2 days, it was about 17 degrees and very strong wind. Again, coming from here in Okinawa, like even today in this weather, it's like 33 degrees and very, very humid. Like especially walking in here in these trees, it's like, whoo. And this is like the first sign I saw for the park when I came. When I came from that tiny little road there. Also, there's some reason these are shaped like fish. These signs were not visible when I was walking the other way. Be careful of snakes. I mean, of course I know that there are snakes in Okinawa, like especially they call them habu, vipers. Very venomous snakes. I know they're here, but because I'm not used to dangerous things being where I live, I just never think about it. So when I see the sign, it's like, oops, they're here somewhere. Also, I don't know if you can see them up there, but that's basically a swarm of dragonflies just up there. And suddenly a lot more cars in the parking lot. It's not like it's full at all, but when I came here there was just one other car than me. Now there's like 4 more than that. And a little cat just sleeping over there.
Anyway, yeah, that was really just what I wanted to have a chance to talk to you about. Little things that are interesting to see after coming back to my own country after several years. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed walking through the jungle park there. I never did get wet from that rain, by the way. And I've stopped on the way back to get lunch. There was a very nice little soba restaurant very close to there, where I had lovely, lovely little sea breeze soba, I think was basically the name of it. Very nice. Anyway, enough of that. Thank you so much for watching this, and I'll see you again, as usual, at some indeterminate point in the future. Swish!